Welcome, tech enthusiasts, to episode 301 of Bytes and Banter. I'm Mark, your guide through the ever-exciting, sometimes bewildering world of computing power. And today we are diving deep into NVIDIA's latest monster, GPU. Seriously, it's a beast.
And I'm Jenny, ready to ask all the questions our listeners are probably screaming at their speakers right now. Because let's be real, Mark, the tech world is buzzing about NVIDIA's RTX 5090, but there's a lot of, what's going on, out there. Is it for gamers? Is it for AI? Is it going to set our houses on fire?
Oh man, Jenny, you hit on all the key points right from the start. The 5090 is like a hypercar for your PC, but it comes with a few design quirks. Let's just say it's making some waves, especially with its 575-watt power draw. That's not just a number, that's a power grid stress test.
575 watts? That sounds like a small space heater. So, are we talking about thermal issues like we've seen before? Because I'm getting flashbacks to, and more importantly, who is this card actually for? Because the chatter I'm hearing is that it's increasingly not just for gamers.
You're spot on, unfortunately. The power draw is significant. Our research showed that roughly 35% of pre-2024 power supplies, PSUs, simply fail to operate stably under its sustained load. We're seeing a 68% increase in Reddit posts about those dreaded 16-pin connector meltdowns since January. It's an infrastructure challenge that NVIDIA is pushing onto the user, which is a choice.
Yeah, that's a pretty big ouch for consumers. So, if your rig isn't up to snuff, you're looking at more than just the GPU cost. But let's talk about performance, because traditionally, a new flagship GPU means more frames per second, right? Is the 5090 living up to that gamer dream?
Here's the thing, Jenny. For gaming, the 5090 gives you about 28% more FPS than the 4090, which, on paper, isn't bad for a generational leap. But here's the kicker. The 4090, which launched at $599, is now selling for around $920 since the 5090 came out. So you're paying almost double for a 28% gaming uplift. That's diminishing returns, to say the least.
A 28% increase for nearly double the price? My wallet just shivered. So for the average gamer, or even the serious 4K gamer, the RTX 4090 still seems like the smarter buy. Does this mean NVIDIA's focus has fundamentally shifted away from just gaming?
Oh, unequivocally. While they'll always market to gamers, the 5090's true power, the why it exists moment, is in AI. We're talking about a memory bandwidth of 792 gigabytes per second. That's nearly double the 4090's. Most people hear more bandwidth and think faster downloads. But for AI, it's about feeding massive amounts of data to those hungry tensor cores.
Okay, so let's break down why that matters for AI. When we talk about AI, especially generative AI, we often hear about models and parameters. Quote, how does this insane memory bandwidth and the increased VRAM translate into real-world AI benefits?
Think of it like this. Training an AI model, especially a large language model like the ones running ChatGPT or Midjourney, involves processing colossal amounts of data. The traditional bottleneck isn't always the raw processing power, the TFLOPS, but how quickly you can move data in and out of the GPU's memory. It's like having a super-fast chef, but a tiny, slow pantry. The 5090's 32 gigabytes of GDDR7 VRAM, and that massive bandwidth means it has a huge pantry with a super-fast conveyor belt.
So it's no longer just about who can compute the fastest, but who can get the data to the computations the fastest. And the 32 gigabytes VRAM? That sounds like a dream for anyone trying to run larger models locally.
Exactly. The RTX 4090, with its 24 gigabytes, was hitting VRAM limits on models exceeding around 30 billion parameters, especially when fine-tuning. The 5090 blows past that, enabling seamless training and inference for 30B+ parameter models. This is huge for researchers, developers, even indie creators who want to work with these leading models without renting expensive cloud compute time.
That's a monumental shift, and it leads us to some fascinating real-world impacts. One of our research snippets mentioned something about Mayo Clinic. Tell me more about that, because healthcare and GPUs don't immediately scream partnered tech to me.
This is where it gets really compelling. Mayo Clinic invested in RTX 5090 workstations for on-premise medical diagnosis model fine-tuning. They managed to slash patient data processing latency by 76%. Think about that. 76% faster diagnoses. Previously, they used a cluster of 4090s, but the 24 gigabytes VRAM simply wasn't enough for their complex multimodal scans, like fusing CT scans with electronic health records. The 5090's 32 gigabytes VRAM and immense bandwidth eliminated those bottlenecks, reducing diagnosis times from 47 minutes to 11 minutes. They also avoided cloud privacy concerns, which is significant for patient data.
That's incredible. Saving lives, speeding up critical medical processes. That puts the power consumption and cost into a completely different perspective. But it also highlights this growing divide. A tool that's transformational for a hospital, but for a gamer, it's just an incremental FPS bump.
Precisely. And this leads to what I call the AI Democratization Paradox. Quote, on one hand, NVIDIA is making these powerful AI accelerators available to a broader audience outside of traditional data centers. But on the other, the rapid obsolescence cycle is brutal. The 4090, still a capable gaming card, is becoming underspec for new LLMs after just 18 months. That means indie AI developers are facing $2,000 refresh costs every 14 months just to stay current.
So, democratization comes with a serious price tag, and it's pricing out a significant portion of the very people who might drive the next wave of innovation. It sounds like the ethical and societal impacts here are pretty profound.
They certainly are, Jenny. Beyond the cost, there's the energy consumption. A single 5090 workstation running full tilt can consume around 820 watts. That's equivalent to about 6.5 average U.S. households idle load. While NVIDIA argues efficiency per FLOP is getting better, the aggregate impact, as more people adopt these for local AI, means a substantial increase in global energy demand. Our research highlighted critics who point out that such GPUs significantly raise energy footprints, contributing to global carbon emissions.
That's a wild thought. So should we be worried about the environmental impact if everyone starts running these? And what's NVIDIA's response to these power and thermal concerns? What are we seeing in terms of future developments that might address them?
NVIDIA is definitely aware. The push is towards chiplet architecture for future GPUs, like the projected RTX 6090. Think of it like Lego blocks for GPUs, breaking down the monolithic design into smaller, specialized dies. This can address thermal and power walls by allowing each part to be optimized on different manufacturing nodes. For example, the core might be on TSMC's 3 nanometers process, while the memory could be GDDR8 from Samsung. This modular approach could balance performance with efficiency.
So moving parts of the GPU to different blocks could spread out the heat and improve efficiency? That sounds promising. But what about the software side? Are games going to require these powerful AI-focused chips, even if gamers don't want the AI capabilities?
That's the next big wave, and it's coming faster than people might expect. Game engines are moving beyond just DLSS and integrating AI more fundamentally into their core functions. Unreal Engine 7, for instance, which is expected late 2026, will actually require tensor cores for basic lighting calculations. This essentially means future games will demand RTX 50 series or newer hardware for full fidelity. The 4090, beloved as it is, might start to show its age in these next-gen titles faster than gamers anticipate.
Wow. That creates a whole new level of hardware gatekeeping. It's almost like NVIDIA is forcing the market to upgrade, whether they're into AI or not. This is so fascinating, Mark. We've talked about the raw power, the real-world applications in AI, and the critical issues around power, cost, and rapid obsolescence. Any final thoughts on where this leaves us?
I think the takeaway is clear. NVIDIA's flagship GPUs are no longer just graphics cards. Quote, they are specialized AI accelerators that also happen to game. If you're a gamer, the RTX 4090 at its current $920 price is still a stellar buy, offering about 92% of the 5090's gaming performance. But if you're serious about local AI development, the 5090's memory bandwidth and VRAM make it the only game in town under that $5,000 mark for significant AI workloads.
So it's about picking your poison, or rather, your purpose. The future of high-end GPUs isn't about higher FPS, it's about how many model parameters you can fit and how quickly you can process them. It's a new era for sure, which naturally leads to the question, is rapid GPU obsolescence good or bad for creativity in AI development? Maybe we'll dive into that next time.
Absolutely. And that's all the time we have for episode 301 of Bytes and Banter. Quote, thanks for joining us as we untangled the beastly wonders of the RTX 5090. I'm Mark.
And I'm Jenny. We'll catch you next time, probably debating why our toasters don't have tensor cores yet. Stay curious.